So here is where I'm at with my little 5.3 project. Got the cam bearings put back in, got it all cleaned up, got the crank and the pistons put back in. So it took me a little bit to decide on what to do about a camshaft. Now, I did have this one sitting around. This is a GM camshaft, I believe. Now, if you look at the numbers, now most GM camshafts have a little barcode on the back. But I did take this out of a GM high performance 6-liter crate motor. It's the same one I have in my little white truck. Now this is advertised as an LS6 hot cam, a stock GM camshaft. So this should be 550 lift, I think around 204, 210, I think, from what I found. Could be a little different with around a 117 LSA, I think. So a pretty mild cam, but should be a pretty good improvement over stock. So now I'm going to go with this one because on my motor, I'm planning on just throwing it in an old Tahoe, and I don't need that big chop. So I just want something pretty mild, but I want something a little bit better that will get some more power than just a gutless old 5.3. So hopefully this one will work pretty nice. If you ever do a camshaft swap or repair on an LS motor, one thing I've seen a lot of guys do right here on the front is where your little retainer plate goes. Now a lot of people just reuse these. Now this is an old one right here. So if you look, these are little holes right here. That's actually where the oil goes through and keeps your lifters oiled up. So if you look at the plate, this little orange guy right here is a seal. So here is an old one, here's a new one. Now here's a GM part number for a factory one. They do make aftermarket ones you can throw in. Now here is a new one. So here is a new retainer plate. I don't know if you can tell, but that little seal right there is brand new. And you can feel how it's raised up. And that should make a pretty good sealant surface. Now if you compare it to the old one, that is almost flush with the plate. So if you were going to reuse this one, you could be losing some oil pressure. Whenever you get it all back together, check your oil pressure gauge and see it's got about 15 to 20 PSI. This could be the reason. If you don't put a new one of these when you rebuild it, this is one thing I would definitely replace. I did have an old installer tool, I think it's a small block. This little adapter was different, so I did have to make one from scratch, and it's pretty ugly, but it lines up and it should get the job done. So I'm going to throw that on my cam, and we'll throw it in. All right, so here's my camshaft. Got the installer on there, ready to throw it in. Now I'm going to use a mixture of just regular good old GM 530 and some EOS assembly lube. Alright, so I'm about to throw this retainer plate back on. Now before I do, you may or may not know that there are two different bolts that GM likes to use on these plates here. Now on the older ones, they used to use just regular old hex bolts. But on most of them, pretty much all of them I've seen, they use these little inverted Torx bolts that are T40s. And they look like this. Now, I cleaned these up and I did put a little bit of thread locker on them. They have thread locker from the factory on them now. Now, if you Google the specs for these, a lot of times it'll say 18 foot-pounds, but that is for these bolts. These bolts are 11 foot-pounds. So if you look up at SI, it will say, it'll tell you 11 foot-pounds. I just want to let you know that because personally I've known somebody who has snapped some bolts off in the block. I'm not going to name names, but they know who they are. And it wasn't me, it was somebody else. Just a little FYI. It's 11 foot-pounds. And I'm going to put a little bit of oil on this seal before I throw it in. And let's get this guy on. So I'm about to throw the sprocket back on here. Now, you're gonna line these two marks up. The one on the crank and the one on the cam need to be pretty close together. So this is the sprocket I'm using. So I'm gonna be lining this little mark up right there. So that should be lined up and look just like that if I got it right. And these bolts are 26 foot-pounds. So if you watched my last video, I did drill these holes out whenever I had this block all apart. See if I can't put this guide in here. Now, this is the moment of truth here. Let's see how close I got. Okay, so I gotta admit, I think I did get slightly off this little timing guide. I think it's off to the left just a little bit. It did kind of drill off center, I was worried about, so. I think I am gonna have to try and fix that, but I think I have a way around that. So the bolts on this timing guide have this little plastic rubbery type of spacer on it to help kind of line it up and center it. Now I could just leave them out and kind of slide it. There's enough play, I can probably slide it, get in position and torque it. But it could move over time, that's what I'm worried about. So to try to slide it and get it to stay, I'm gonna have to do something else. Okay, so if I can put the washer, fold it up and put it to one side, that'll make the bolt stay to one side, one way or the other. Then I can just run the bolt through. Think I'm gonna try that. Okay, so I need to push this tensioner to the left a little bit. So I'm gonna put these spacers on this side. Hopefully when I torque it down, it'll be lined up. All right, so a little blue thread locker on it. Those spacers on this side, on the right side, hopefully it'll move it over that way when I get it locked in. Okay, so I'm gonna need to go to the right a little bit more. Did I get that on the right side? Well, I guess we're about to find out. All right, I think I like that a little bit better. Appears to be centered. You can tell by the bolts how they are kind of cockeyed to the left. So it kind of pushed that tensioner more to the right. And that little mark looks like it's more centered. It's little triangles. I don't know if that comes out or not. All right, and I think these are 18 foot-pounds, not sure. Pretty sure they're 18. Anyway, torque them, and should be good. All right, now I do have my new lifters soaking in some fresh motor oil here. I'm gonna let them soak for a little bit, and we'll throw those guys in too. So my timing set's all in. We're getting pretty close. I'll get my lifters and trays in, and then I'm gonna start working on the heads. We are getting closer.